Hi, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During, and I'm here with Lance Epler.
Lance Romance right here in studio. I wrecked myself to try to get back. I didn't really wreck myself, but
you're here.
Here I am.
Alive and sound.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, live.
Cool.
Yeah.
We don't have the other two guys, so guess what?
We're missing both triathletes?
No triathletes today. Woohoo! Now, we love you, Matt. We love you, Evan. And we're going to talk about some other stuff today. It just doesn't involve triathlon, which is fantastic. And on that note, on the old it's not Skype. What are we going to call that?
I don't know.
The interwebs, I guess. Mr. Chris Sarrett. How are you, Chris?
Hey, I'm great. Sorry I didn't bring a cool tagline with me, but I'll work on it.
We'll work on that. We'll get one for you before the end of the day.
It's almost is needed for this show if you want to hang with Jake and I.
And then today we've got a special guest with us, Mr. Race Extraordinaire promoter guy, Mr. Mike Ripley. How are you, Mike?
Doing great, guys. How are you guys doing this fine? Was it Monday?
It is Monday.
It's Monday.
All day long.
Monday, yeah.
All day long.
It's all a blur. Well, 7 days a week, so I mean, I don't know what day it is.
Yeah,
So.
what do you do?
Yeah.
Right on. Cool. We're going to do a quick backpedal this week. And by quick, I mean quick.
I don't know if I can do that, Jake. Am I capable of doing that? I love to talk about myself.
30 seconds, Lance. Go.
Okay. I rode every day. This morning I hit 200 days in a row. I don't know if that's smart or stupid. It's probably a little bit of both. That's about it. I did have one really cool ride this last week where I rode through Zion National Park. It was part of. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
It was part of my trek on the way home, trying to beat the snowstorm to get back to the Northwest, and I did. So that's it. Hepler out.
Cool. My backpedal real quick. I don't even need 30 seconds, Lance.
You rode on Zwift every day.
Zwift. 7 days, 10 hours, done.
That sucks.
It was terrible. The Pacific Northwest this week, for those that don't know or from outside of the area, we got dumped on with snow and
we got
ice
hammered.
and all kinds of fun stuff. So it pretty much kept all activities indoors.
Yep.
So, yeah, lots of Zwifting. So, Chris and Mike, do you guys care to backpedal? Did you guys do anything interesting this week, or was it just like the both of us?
No, 7 days is Zwift. I'm not even sure I remember how to ride a bike outside.
How about you, Mike? Did you have a good week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, build up some kind of whatever Ripley form is. I think I hit 3,500 miles last year, which was good for me. But
Great.
No, I'm going to go ride 50 miles reportedly towards the Mudslinger course from Corvallis tomorrow morning. So
wow.
Somebody's coaxed me out of my den. So we'll see what happens.
What will be your weapon of choice on that ride? Mountain bikes, tires?
My Clatch. I got a Commotion Clatch, custom Ripley-sized gravel bike from Commotion Cycles, and carbon where it counts. And just try to get some video and just have fun exploring.
Awesome.
Love it.
Cool. So the reason why we wanted to do this whole short backpedal thing is because I want to introduce our guest. So we've talked about Chris Sarrett, 100 times plus?
Yeah.
Like almost every episode?
He's kind of a regular training partner of mine. I've talked about him a lot because I super respect him and I love riding with me. He makes me a better rider. So we're super to have.
The Albany Animal.
Yes.
Chris, tell us about yourself, man. We could do a whole show on just you alone. Your journey to get to the status of where you're at is you're the reigning bar champion, the best all-around rider, Category 3, all different disciplines.
Yes.
In the Oregon Bicycle Racing Association. But just tell us a little bit about you. What makes you tick, bud?
Sure, I'm just a guy that spends too much time on his bike. I got into this bike racing thing. Well, I got into cycling again as kind of a means to lose some weight and get in shape. And I quickly figured out I was okay at it. So I've been doing this bike racing thing for, 5 or 6 years now. I've been with Dialed for 3 years, and I'm just having a blast. It's
awesome.
Yeah,
your husband, you got a couple kids. Everybody's in your family rides now. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I got 2 kids, a 12 and a 13-year-old. They're riding. They ride on a NICA team. They do some Ober racing. Just got my wife on the mountain bike 6 months or so ago,
Yeah.
and making it a family thing.
Awesome. Mr. Mike Ripley, you are pretty prolific here in the Pacific Northwest as a race promoter. You put on some of probably the best events, bar none, right?
Best mountain bike events by far, and his gravel events are fantastic. Yeah, so we've been wanting to have Mike on for quite some time because we respect him as a person and as a race promoter. So we're happy to have him here today.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike. How did you get into this whole race promotion thing, and tell us about what you're doing currently?
Yeah, well, I moved. I grew up in Eugene, and I had my first mountain bike in 1989, a Trek 800, and I started riding mountain bikes. I played basketball a lot, so I weighed like 220 and was, decent at basketball. A late bloomer. I think I looked like a Coke bottle as a freshman in high school. I was 190, and literally I shaped like a Coke bottle, and I wore husky clothing, and then I grew 7 inches. So, so that made life a little easier in a way, because, it's one thing, to play basketball, but when you have the appropriate height, you can go for it. So, no, I grew up in Eugene, moved to Corvallis, and when I moved to Corvallis, I saw Paul Thomasberg. He's still a Shimano skunk, helped with Joe Murray and all the gang. Shimano create all their various incarnations from XT to pedals to everything. And he was the reigning, or I think he was second in cross country in 91 or 90 with Greg Herbold and Ned Overend. And he sprayed me with gravel with his Tioga disc wheel at the Mudslinger when I wasn't putting it on in Corvallis. He came around the apex of a corner, literally, powered through the corner with the Tioga disc wheel, and it made that crazy ass sound going at 40 miles an hour. And I was hooked. And I was in Corvallis, and so, of course, I was in the military also. I was in the Air Force. And I managed restaurants. So that made it, of course, appropriate for me to start the Corvallis Mountain Bike Club and then take over the Mudslinger from Randy Pratt, who was a racer who raced for Raleigh and was a national Norba Masters champion, and still probably has records in Corvallis.
Yeah.
You guys know from Oak Creek Gate to the first intersection, climbing up towards Dimple Hill, 6 minutes and 30 seconds. 6 minutes and 30 seconds, Chris. Okay, to the first intersection, and 24:50 to the top. Okay, so that's just some little past history records. Anyway, so I put on the Mudslinger from until 95, and then moved to Bend. Was working restaurants and trying to help people organize races. Met up with Coda. Was building trails, and I built trails with OSU previous to that. So I kind of started passionately with trail access. That's my first love. Mountain biking was just kind of symbiotic to that. So moving forward, when I moved back to the area in the Valley in 2000, the Mudslinger didn't happen at PB Arboretum. So in 2001, I took it back and then formed a company in 2003. And from that point on, got involved with Obra, and just the story just kind of went on and on. Went full-time in 2011, kicked my restaurant job to watch my kids grow up and do the self-employment gig, for better or for worse. But, it's been a labor of love for the most part. It's been great. I mean, I still try to ride my bike a lot. I still try to get to an event without being accused of it being my event when I'm dressed in my kit. I find that to be kind of humorous. The first person that asked me, it's probably will happen. I'm going to go down to Shasta Gravel Hugger, and somebody's going to go, "So Mike, you putting this on?" I'm like, no, leave me alone.
Guilty by association. Yep.
Guilty by association. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's a little short story.
All right. Well, we're going to dive into a lot more stuff. Mike and his race promotion company, Mudslinger Events, will be our topic for the day. But before we do that, Lance, we got some Patreon news.
Oh, yes.
We got a couple new Patreons.
A couple new Patreons?
Two, yeah. We got Austin Ailing and we've got Kim Catherine. Both are new Patreons to the show, and I am super stoked about that. So you know what that means?
A new drawing.
Yeah, let's do a drawing.
Thank you, Austin and Kim.
Yeah, for those that are watching on YouTube, we're live streaming this. You can actually kind of see we've got this neat little hat here. I'm going to put it up on my thing. From Aerolax, we've got a new deal with Aerolax, and they sent us a bunch of goodies to kind of put out there, and we've got that. And then we've got another race bottle here from Sierra Nevada. So that was kind of nice. Let's shake up this whole thing here and it's like I think 20 some odd things with Rob Buck's name on it.
Did you take Rob Buck's name out of there?
Probably should. I don't know what the deal with that is. Guy wins every week.
All right.
Who do we got here? Read my chicken scratch.
Chris Hitchcock.
Chris Hitchcock. Nice.
Yes.
Congratulations, Chris. So, Chris, you got yourself a new hat and a sports bottle. Come on down, and we will get that to you.
I miss seeing Chris. He's a good guy to talk to.
He is a good dude. He's just like one of those all-around nice guys.
He's a good guy.
He's just always there, always helping out. Love it. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can go to dialpodcast.com, and on that page, you will see a little link there for Patreon. Click on through, and you can choose the Patreon that works best for you. We greatly appreciate everybody who is a show supporter, and we'll keep doing this every single week. I've got a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to keep doing drawings until we run out of goodies.
I love it.
And if anybody wants to give us some stuff to put in the queue there
you go.
Yeah, by all means, bring that down, and we'll throw it in there.
I got a used handkerchief I could give to you, Jake.
That's a lot of DNA that we don't need, Lance.
That's for sure.
Awesome. Let's jump into some of this.
Bailey, top 5.
I think he's in the top 5 discussion. I mean, I'm not just going to go out crazy
Hall
and
of
say top
Famer?
3. Hall of
Famers.
Champ Bailey by Champ Bailey.
Champ Bailey, are you in the house?
Champ is in the house, but he's going to talk quick because he wants to talk to Mike Ripley about other cool stuff. All right, a couple of big events did happen this last week. The Tour de la Provence, which is a 4-day stage race in France. That happened. A lot of big hitters showed up for it because people want to test their legs. And it was a fun race to watch. It was won by Ivan Sosa of Ineos Grandos. I just said that wrong. But second place overall was Alaphilippe, and third place was Egan Bernal. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, there was some big hitters that showed up.
Ineos looking strong.
They Sosa and Bernal kind of killed the Mont Ventoux stage. They rode away from everybody. And Alaphilippe, he got in the break and mixed it up in the sprint every stage. He was just testing himself. So it's kind of fun to watch that World Championship jersey actually be in the mix. So that's what happened there. The other news is Peter Sagan is going to miss the first couple of classics. He was hoping to do all the classics this year, but he tested positive for COVID.
Oh wow, good on you, Pete.
So he's already through it. They're just now announcing this. His symptoms are already gone, but he lost a little bit of training, and they've decided he's not going to do the first 2 big classics, Omloop and I think Brussels Kearns or something like that.
That's too bad. But
Sagan's going to sit out a couple of those. Other than that,
is that it?
That's it. I'm out.
Champ here. I'm all about having fun. Get a couple of cocktails in me, start a fire in someone's kitchen, maybe go to SeaWorld, take my pants off.
Thanks, Champ.
You're welcome.
Cool. That's it.
That's it.
Let's jump into the show. Mike Ripley, I want to talk to you about Mudslinger Events, and we've got a bunch of questions for you. Ready, bud?
Let's go.
And Chris, too, if you've got some questions yourself, feel free to chime in whenever you like. Lance, why don't you go and hit him with the first one?
Let me just say, I was super pleased that Mike Ripley is in our area because he was the only race promoter in our area that was able actually to pull off races last year. And I think I did almost all the races you did last year except for Oregon 24 because that's way too freaking long for me. I can't handle that. But I was just super.
That's one lap. A team for Dialed Cycling couldn't show up. Literally.
That's a good point.
There was a team there. I think there was. I mean, didn't we?
Yeah,
have a
we
team
had
there for Dialed?
Eric Taft.
Taft.
And who went out there?
Oh
with
yeah,
him?
okay.
I mean,
we had a junior team do 28 laps from a NICA junior team did 28 laps. They're called Continuous Threat, and they're coming back.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the record, literally. And these kids, we had the Ben NICA team do 24 laps, and they averaged 13.4 years of age, which is insane.
That's insane.
So come on, Dialed.
Well,
Okay, Lance.
Okay, well, if I could talk Sarrett into doing it with me, I would actually do that. That would actually be fun.
Do you have other options
I'm
besides
in.
24 hours? Is it just 24 hours?
No, there's a 12, but this year we're doing the WEMBO. We're doing the World Endurance Mountain Bike Organization's America's Solo 24. So we got like $3,500 in cash on the line, and we have
wow.
a few Canadians. I'm hoping to get a few people from South America, but you know, it's going to be border dependent on that. But that's kind of a cool, you know, thing that's not recognized by the UCI, and it's not 24-hour racing really isn't recognized right now by USA Cycling. So Wembo, they're in Australia, and I've competed in a few of their events over the course of history, and it's super, super cool. They got super tight rules and really good vibe, and Australia is the world championship. So we're hopefully going to have an American get down to Australia, hopefully,
Awesome.
this winter, all things permitted.
So, Mike, last year was a giant wrench in the plans of all racers and all race promoters. How did you survive it? How were you able to pull off races when everybody else just bailed?
I don't know if it was bail. I mean, some people are so big. Some of the events, like, you know, even Todd, like at Epic Rides, I mean, his footprint is such that it's hard for him to operate in a smaller capacity. You know, when you have somebody that's the sponsors are thinking it's going to be X and then it's Y. You know, for me, I've always been, you know, a smaller 200-person event. So looking at it in this, you know, in the form of single serve and one way, like retail's open, and restaurant, you know, with our single use water bottles and our disinfectant spray and all this, it really just, it was more of an emotional commitment towards keeping my business afloat and looking at what opportunity means to me. And so that was really it. At the end of the day, it was emotionally, I think, just as hard as it was physically to do, because I do everything based upon creating expectations. And so those things were question marks as I was going into, you know, Mudslinger and then High Cascades that happened on its normal weekend.
Yeah.
And, you know, every city manager and all the county permits and the Forest Service, they were ridiculously cool and easy to work with. I mean, easy being the fact that I've been doing this for a long time, but really the risk of outdoor, you know, I was looking at it because I get a little bit emotional about what you should do or shouldn't do. Those words are weird to me. The word safe is strange to me. You know, it's all relative, because bike racing inherently, or bike events, are not generally safe. You know, you can overuse that word.
Amen. Yeah.
So, you know, but no, I pulled it off. I mean, we pulled it off. And what was really kind of creepy about last year was I only think maybe I sent one person to the hospital with a post crash after the remote finish at High Cascade. Somebody stacked it on the last double, and that happens on a remote. You know, you try to do what you can, but literally that means that everybody this year should be really watching their backs, because if I didn't send any, that's never happened. I always send somebody for like post treatment, whether it's a stitch or something basic. So beware, everyone, this year.
It was part of the reason you were able to make things happen is because your races happen in more rural areas, and so the county restrictions. No, it didn't have anything to do with that.
Not really. I mean, because, you know, we can operate under the guidelines that were set up by the OHA. I mean, I even had people at like Oregon Grand Fondos. One person was working with the OHA and developing guidelines, and people that were training dentists, they were giving me props on my protocols. And it was nice to hear the feedback, and everybody overall, like 99.5% of the people were really cool. So it was really more of a process of how do you handle people and stagger people and throttle them so you're not creating a hazard. That's really the key on all of this, is just creating a minimal footprint, but then being really intentional and telling people we can't fix everything. Like we had some people at Stampede that didn't want to wear a mask, right? They just didn't believe in it. Okay. Well, I just brought their stuff out to them at Packet Pickup. I don't care. That's their deal.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
Now I could get all uppity about it or something, because I believe in wearing a mask, and we'll get through this thing one day at a time. But, you know, it's like, it's very, these things we get too hung up on. So I was just looking for the easiest form. And so I've created what I think is just kind of a base to work from, whether we get to wave starts or some counties, like I've heard, you know, like Washington has very specific racing guidelines and rules. And if you guys haven't seen them, I can always share them with you offline. You know, so there's just a way to do process.
Good. Chris, do you have any questions for Mike?
I mean, first off, Mike, you are the reason Oregon racing happened.
Yep.
Without you, there would be a lot of us with too much fitness and
No
nothing
race
to do with
days.
it.
Yep.
You'd be
So, I mean, this is obviously, you're not going to get rich as a race promoter in Oregon. So, I mean, what motivates you to keep doing this? Why do you sacrifice your time and your finances? And
well, it's my job. I mean, this is my full-time gig. So making a living, I don't even, people are trying to wrap their brains around what that even means, right? I consider it having a good day. I don't think the money part of it, whether you're making a lot, because I used to call it minimum wage with some effort back in the day,
Sure.
And there's some events, you make better money on, some that you don't, and some you shouldn't even go into, because some people will put on an event and they don't really have any basis for sponsorship. Like I have that new West Coast gravel event. I think the initial flagging's like close to $1,200 to get people out of the venue. I mean, just because of the nature of the event. So, will I be able to cover those types of things? What's the process for the events this year? All that stuff's going to kind of happen. But like, speak to your point, Chris. The thing I think that's been a biggest benefit about what happened in 2020 was that hopefully by my actions or what I did, it allowed other people to possibly look at their events and to look at how they can do their events in a single serve fashion moving forward, and provide that kind of mental and recreational outlet that we all need for our bikes. And, I create events for racers that are racing at the front of the spear. I love that part, but I'm kind of a mid-pack to back of the pack kind of guy, in a way that I don't really have a bone. I've been competitive like 2 or 3 years. Usually it's in Clydesdale division, where I'll throw down for top 3 maybe. So I just like the game. I just think as a basketball player in my brain, I just like stuff that makes me tick. And I do it because 1, I love being outside. 2, I love clearing trails. 3, I love people in general. I think people are awesome. And there's just so much opportunity out there for people to be engaged and connected to, health and wellness. And that's really where I see the value in what I did last year, and what I'm continuing to do is just to be able to advocate for that. Because unless we take these people that have been moving around more through COVID and we connect people to other people, we're operating in just little silos. And I find that to be the hardest challenge right now. Is I'll have 5 or 6 different ways that I have to communicate to a participant. And it's insane right now how many different filters and boxes there are. And when I'm on my bike, all of that disappears, at least most of it, unless there's a Strava segment that comes up or something stupid. Or you got how connected you are, or we're choosing to be connected. But I've seen the thing that's fascinating right now is there's a lot of people that are choosing to be disconnected. I'm having more times where people are saying, take me off your communication list when it comes to some of my running events, or I don't need to see any information. I just want good information one time. I'll show up, I'll pay, whatever. I just want an experience. Just be succinct, just try to and I don't know. I just love it. I mean, I just love the challenge. My brain works that way, I guess. I love the challenge of all this.
I love your communication style. I mean, before events, I get 2 or 3 emails, and it says, watch the corner at mile 22, because if you're going too fast, you're going to rail off this. I love reading that kind of stuff because sometimes I can't pre-ride a course and you're just going in blind. So I love that you do all
well,
that.
and those things, Lance, though, it's kind of funny. I tell all these promoters, because a lot of people ask me, they'll call me and they'll ask me for advice, whether it's a new event or it's just friends I know. We'll share information, and that's cool. And I tell people, I go, your 72-hour email before the event, you have a chance for people to listen to you. And
Right.
you have a chance to nail it during that time period. And then you only have up to 48 hours after to tweak whatever, do whatever, shift whatever, and then literally hit reset, rewind, and move on. And I have 17 events, I think, which is pretty much stupid on one hand, but they're like, some of them are like my children, and you don't want to like off your children, but some of them, I don't know. It's like, it's funny. I love what I do. And I guess I think another about 15 years to do this thing. So why not? Right.
Speaking of 15 years, what are we looking at for the future of Mudslinger Events? Do you have any goals or anything that's kind of in the horizon, or something that's kind of on your grand wish list of things that you want to accomplish in that time period?
Big question, Jake. Way to hit me with one. Yeah, life's dreams. I'll never ever outdo Brad's stripper bus from Cross Crusade, so I can never ever outdo that one. I don't think my wife would let me. Let's see, shenanigans. Oh yeah, I'd love to be more shenanigan based. I have to hire more people to be shenanigan based. That's one thing. No, I really want to put on the Wembo World Championships of 24. I think that having a 24-hour World Championship for 24-hour solo would be killer. I want to see where UCI gravel takes us, because I do think, as a function of travel tourism and what it is, it's just a function. I would love to be involved in something to that degree, especially for Oregon, because Oregon is very popular with people that recreate, but we don't really, kind of like what Road World Championships and Kevin's trying to do. Haven't really had huge events or something really big to hang our hat on. And so I'd like to be a part of something like that, outside of directing marathon mountain bike nationals and having the High Cascades, which is, my joy, and I love it. And
a very well-respected event. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because there's a lot of people that are starting to come into this area, even like triathlon, like Ironman. I've heard some rumor and some other things that I'm not at liberty to discuss because I'm connected to too many agencies that connect me to people, and then it never goes anywhere because those national groups are so busy they never talk to you, or to some degree. But no, I don't know what's next. I mean, I think there's a lot of hybrid type stuff coming up. I feel like virtual is interesting, but my survey that we had like 600 people or 640 that responded, people said virtual events were not really comparable to real world events. And, that spoke a lot to me as far as people's desire to see each other, even with a mask, even distanced. It was cool as hell to see you, all you guys and anyone that chose to come to one of my events last year. It was really cool.
Excellent. What else you got, Lance?
I was super pleased that you were able to pull off these events. I mean, I think I did 3 or 4 of your events this last year, and everyone we did were time trial style, which I thought was a great pivot for you. And it actually, and it's different than a mass start event. I will say, I think me and Chris actually did 4 events together last year, and 3 of them were yours. And I beat him once. That's my claim to fame. Only once, though.
Just once.
Just once. But we also participated in a Belgian waffle ride gravel race, which was not time trial. It was like a 600-person mass start event. And from what I understand, there has not been one single case that was contact traced back to that event, even though contact tracing is not all that reliable in the U.S., but there were no cases that were taken back to that mass start event. Do you think you might be able to pull off mass start events this year?
Oh, I mean, if we're thinking about this from the standpoint that how effective, at first, don't wear a mask like Lane County. And that was really because they didn't want everybody taking the N95 masks off the shelf, right, for the doctors and nurses.
Right.
But and the numbers are probably way off, but I always go back to the first thing I heard back when COVID first starting, that, like the general cloth or the general mask is 16% better than, and I'm sure the numbers are better than that, but it's more of a thing where, I mean, I have a friend Cimarron at Grow Races. She's doing True Grit March 6th, and she has 750 people at her event. coming up. And
I've got that on my radar.
I just don't think if it was such a prevalent disease outdoors, I think Bend, Oregon would have been on fire all last spring with like mass COVID. So, outdoors, kind of like outdoor dining or outdoor anything, or like when I drove by the mall yesterday, I got reassured that what I'm doing is reasonable, and I struggle with those things because I don't know why, but I'm always second guessing myself. But I think that a mass start event, especially when we get a lot more of the 65 plus crowd vaccinated, starting in March, whenever the supplies become, because once we get that crowd that's technically dying, that's all dying from this. Well, that's what vaccines are supposed to do. That's how we move forward. So then I'm going to feel even better about, hey, let's go for a bike ride. And see, I don't think the wave start personally has to be me yakking at you all standing next to each other for 5 minutes.
Right.
I think that more like I need to get the purge, like a big recording of the sound of the purge, and let you guys start just going up this road at a random time where we just sound this giant beacon. So going for a bike ride is not really, I don't think it's going to be a transmissible or a thing that's too risky. I'm sure you guys ride together, other groups ride together. And so I'm not really worried about a mass start event. Right now, I'm not really ready for it. But by the time we get another few months, as things keep on trending down, I'm going to look at it. But it has to be competitively fair. At the end of the day, that's the limiter on all this type of formats, that TTs are competitively fair. And if you tell the fastest people to come earlier in the day and start, then technically, like at Stampede, where it was a 1 second win, Massimo lost by 1 second to Braden, and there's always these things that can happen. Like we just got permission from the landowner at Stampede to do a TT start for this year. So that's really exciting news last week.
Great.
So we'll be back in the venue again. We won't have the horse lead out right now, or we won't have the kids race because it draws a crowd, but we're still going to do the long course and the short course, which is killer. And I'm stoked about that. Yeah. So,
nice.
It's, I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah, we're here to hear you, Mike.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Chris, do you have any other questions?
No, Mike, one thing I love about your races is they have this really inclusive quality. My first race was one of your events, Oregon Grand Fondo. And it's cool that, your races are inclusive, but at the same time, you can race at the pointy end if you want. What can other promoters do to replicate that? Because, bike racing as a whole feels like it's on the decline. How can promoters help that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I put on timed events, guys. That's literally it. Unless I'm putting on a road bike race, which I've done, that's a race. Now, even the Cat 4.5s, that's a race. There's somebody that wants to win that thing, They're dying for it. So I get it. It's just like it's all kind of discipline related. So for me, I can put on a trail run, and guess what? You go to the running store, everybody that's buying shoes wants to go to a 5K or a trail run. There's no barrier. But for some reason, the more that we make it about racing, and the more we make it about upgrades, and the more we make it about all that stuff, the less people are interested, because then they fall by the wayside. So, sometimes you have to for safety. Like road, categories are super crucial. But for the most of this, it's really about the structure and the inclusivity and the fun and reaching out to new groups and, having less barriers to entry, whatever that means for your particular organization, when it comes to cost or the way you get people in or how you do teams or make it interesting. All those things factor in, and it's all kind of a 7-layer dip of cycling culture. And that's the way I like it, because then it's, it has something for everybody. Not everybody likes cheese pizza only, So.
That's good.
Yeah.
So with the racing, let's just say COVID aside, once we're past COVID and all that other stuff, what's the ideal number that you need for participation for you to live a happy and healthy life?
Yeah, at least 10,000 people, at least minimum. At least. I mean, if I want to live like Lance, then, maybe 5,000 people, about 6 events a year. Chad Sperry and I could probably talk about that. We see Lance the Adventurer. I'm giving him a new label today too, Mr. Adventure. So, and I call Chris the Beast. Chris would be like the Beast, man. That guy comes on strong. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Turbo diesel.
It's like, it's so cool. But no, I mean, the kind of the number, I mean, obviously everybody has their different parameter. I mean, a couple hundred people is nice. I mean, if you can make things work on a couple hundred people, the hardest part is you look at the discipline and you look at what it takes, and you look, if you're talking about road, well, we don't really have the ideal, let's just say we don't have the ideal systems in place to predict a road outcome for what we're trying to get to, because there's only so many peaks. Roadies definitely are monitoring their peaks and what they want to participate in. The amount I've seen this, the connection to the cost of entering a road race and keeping that the same as a cyclocross race, I think was a very big limiter in road, because road could have followed mountain bike a little more closer in cost, or how much it costs to put on, because it's not cheap putting on a road race at all. And so the expectations of crowd, I think, are a little bit off in some ways on that. Although very well intended and super passionate. I just think that we need, in a perfect world, I'd see 4 really quality one-day road races in Oregon, and then some stage races, because literally, if Baker City doesn't work, then what else is there? We might as well continue to support those existing races that care and have an opportunity to build on what they have. It's like when the Cat 4, like road-wise, when the Cat 4 crowd left, well, that'd be like saying the sport category's leaving in mountain biking, or the Cat 2.
Yeah.
And that literally is something that, unless you can have those participants want to participate, you got to create kind of an opportunity for the person that wants to do the bridge pedal, or the person that wants to ride the worst day of the year ride, or the monster cookie ride. If you don't add that to your event as a road race, whoa, that's an opportunity. But you still have to get off your high throttle attitude, or whatever you're trying to present. I mean, you can do both, but it takes a unique person to try to be that, all-inclusive event. And
I would think that's where the profitability would be. You don't include the masses, you aren't profitable, right?
No, totally. If you can't replace, I'm just talking road, because literally after 20 some years of going to an OBRA meeting in Portland, or thinking, oh, we're going to talk about mountain biking. No, we're going to talk about road racers that want more road events. And we're going to talk about when the cyclocross season is coming up. That's literally the discussion. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, if we want to create an era where there is this push, we're taking some of these grassroots underground events that are happening all around us, and we're going to place them inside of an established road race or another event or a TT. And there's something else going on. It's called layering. If you can layer your event, especially when you have a little weak participation, you can do pretty well. It's like half marathons are the bread and butter for running. If you're putting on a full marathon, you're going to get about 3 times as many people doing the half marathon as a full marathon. So you wouldn't exclude that crowd, or a 5K versus 10K.
Right.
It's pretty simple. It's just you're putting on events for people that own bikes. And that's like, for me, I like building trails for people that own bikes. I like putting on events for people that own bikes. And everyone should do at least 2 disciplines. If they're a cyclist, that would be a beautiful thing also.
So I would say, I mean, you put on a race, it's competitive. Competitive people generally find themselves on teams. What can teams do to better support you and other promoters, other than just showing up? I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit, the rhetorical part of like how we can help support promoters. But what can a team like Dial do for you and your organization to make you thrive even more?
I mean, the key thing, you guys create a unique beast, which is really cool. I mean, it's like you're open up for a lot of people. You support all these disciplines. You're really, well-rounded, and you guys are professional, and that's really cool. I think that the challenge now is that teams really are they have their calendar a lot of times laid out 12 months in advance. And if we're talking about a team, is that a road team? Is that a team that just only does one discipline? Is that a master's team? The word is kind of generic, and most people, they like doing what they like to do at the end of the day. I can't usually get people, I can try to up the frequency if I'm trying to ramble on too much. The frequency is really if I have 12 cycling events and you guys are coming, like Lance, you're hitting 3, you're hitting 2, Jake, and some other people. It's for me, it's just looking at the frequency of things, and that, okay, if they're coming to the Oregon Coast Gravel Epic on the 1st of May, are they going to do the double the next day at West Coast Gravel? Now it's like 50% of the people are doing the double. So now I have to figure out, okay, do I not have the right distance for certain people? Am I not marketing right? But teams, what I want to hear from teams is, what do they expect at the end of the year? What's rewarding for teams? I mean, obviously being rewarded accomplishment wise, whether you guys win the bar or if this point structure needs changing to support smaller teams. It's really what's the team is what you make of it, I guess, to say. And I don't know really what I can do for teams often other than the fact if I'm tracking teams and scoring them, is there a unique and interesting thing besides rewarding age groups, which I'm now doing through a Champions Cup from Mudslinger Events. So I'm scoring all my events, and it's on the results tab. So every one of my events is pushed into 5-year age groups. And that way I'm just trying to reward the best overall riders that are coming to mind in multiple disciplines. And so I just, for me, I'm just trying to keep the event, towards satisfying the local community and satisfying the new rider, as well as keeping the people that have been riding and racing for 20 years engaged in the sport. So I don't know. It's a big, long-winded answer. It probably didn't hit your your question, Jake. But I don't, like, at the end of the day, teams, I could look at the list of teams that are on the OBRA site, and a lot of people don't travel out of the Portland area except for once a year or a few times a year. So you're kind of, they kind of know what's going on. So if somebody wants a certain event, we have a lot going on in Oregon. I think we're almost like coffee and beer. We're spoiled to a certain degree in some ways, that there's so much going on. And what I'd want to challenge everybody to do is go find an event in Utah, or go find an event in California, go to Washington and go try something out. Not to say we don't want to support OBRA, because we definitely do, but there's so much other people and communities and things. You can take your Oregon love and go outside the state one time. Because I love going to ride out of state. It's so fun. It's a blast, meet new people.
Last year I was able to go to Utah to do some cyclocross races, because it was one of the few places, it was the only place in the whole West Coast where they were doing cyclocross races. And man, I kind of fell in love with the community. It certainly is not as big as it is in Oregon and Washington, but the race promoters more than once came up to me after the race and they're like, "Lance, tell us, how do our races compare to the races? I know you do, cross crusade races. I know how do our races compare?" And they were honestly asking my opinion, which I thought was kind of cool. But it was neat to see, or be a part of another community and see how they put on races and what they did and what their courses were like.
Absolutely. So. Well, to go back to what Mike was saying about, like, what do teams want? I mean, I think at the end of the day, teams are competitive because they're full of a bunch of competitors. And to pit the teams against each other in a fun, lighthearted, competitive manner is going to drive competition. Driving competition is going to drive more race entries, because you're not going to get points, or you're not going to have the ability to compete against the other people unless you're racing. Right. And we as a team have always challenged the people on our team to do their absolute best and get to as many races as they possibly can, which is why, I guess last year doesn't count, but the 2 years prior to that, we won the best all-around team competition through Oregon Bicycle Racing Association. And it was a message that took so well with our team that it actually blew my mind. I mean, we had more points in first place than second, third, fourth, and fifth combined. And that's because we showed up when we went to the races.
Yeah,
because
we had people at almost every single race.
Yeah, and our goal, whenever there was a competition within a race, whether it be Cross Crusade, Portland Short Track, the Oregon Best All-Around Rider competition for teams, whatever it was, we showed up, and we showed up in numbers because we were competitive and we wanted to win.
Yeah.
And guess what? We won all of them. So I think at the end of the day, having some sort of a competition in there and actually making it worth something, you've got to champion it. You've got to put it out there, and you got to make a little bit of a spectacle about it. And not to belittle Obra, but they really don't do much with respect to the team bar competition. It's kind of like buried 5 or 6 clicks deep in the website.
Yep.
It's a little blip, a little mention at the end of the year at the Obra, year-end award ceremony, and that's about it. And so the teams that know about it will definitely be checking it, and will make a little bit of a stink about it. But you have to celebrate that. Just like you have to celebrate everybody that's out there. It doesn't matter if you're a Cat 1 or a Cat 5, brand new person. Celebrate everybody that's showing up to the races and let them know, hey, good job. We know how much work went into that. That's not easy. You went out there and trained yourself. You suffered, and you did well. We got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a vibe that we have with our team. I would love to see more of that from race promoters. Not like, someone got upset about something, so we're not doing any more, podium events or something like that. It's like you're going the wrong direction. It's like, so what if somebody's pissed off about something? That's fine. You're not going to ever make everybody happy. That's an anomaly. Push that aside, because I can tell you one thing. There's probably about 20 other people that want to see that and want that. And what's more like sad trombone than like, I just worked my butt off and I won a race, and it's like nothing. It's like, go home.
Right. Thanks.
Great job. Go home. Here's a pat on the back. It's like, I just worked really hard for that. And that could be somebody's like shining moment. I know that there's people on our team that they won a race, and it was the first time they've ever won a race, and there's nothing. Zero. That sucks.
You'll see something at the Gravel Epic this year it's the first time I've ever done this for somebody. So I kind of, it's for somebody that won this last year's race. So you'll find out what I'm talking about if you come to the Gravel Epic.
I love it.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. No, and also, just to let you know too, just celebrate excellence though. I think it's celebrating excellence, and that's kind of we're getting so caught up in word usage. Like if you said, "Oh, he's the champion," whoa, champion, whoa, I'm like, all right, okay, that's cool. But no, I do think though that there's room. Like, done this, it's no different than doing like when you're doing a team time trial and the third guy or third gal across the line, your team time is based upon that rider. You do something where it was the two fastest times, for men and women on the long course, because if you literally just boil it down to that simplicity, and you only have to have 2 teammates show up, shut up. That's it. I mean, literally, if you have 2 people from S&M come to Mudslinger, and you have 2 people, the 2 fastest people from Dialed, I don't know. Myers will throw down. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, that's a good competition. So, without making it strictly about numbers, because every time that we've had a team award, the cross country series, Pistis won it. They were a group from Southern Oregon, and it was their church, and they had like 40 people on there. And then we made it about equal points for juniors, and Bend Endurance Academy won the thing because it was equal points and juniors would show up. And so we've always been challenged on that. And so I think per event, for myself, I would love to be able to have a best team award, because I create a lot of custom awards, especially when we're in person, where it's like a custom plaque and it has a picture of a really cool shot with best team or best overall, or something that somebody would want because they worked really hard for it. And it's usually only reserved for those top person in the long course. But I do think just scoring the time on the top 2 riders per event, and at least recognizing that on social and making a big deal of it would be cool. I could easily do that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be hard. Last year aside, we ended up making a little bit more of a big deal after the event because, it's cool and you reach more people. And I still think that's going to be part of my process this year, is more social, without drinking during Instagram. That's kind of a little dangerous. But, got to watch that. But, it's all those things are interesting. I think it's really I don't think it's you guys have created a unique thing that only really back in the day, Web Cyclery probably had a team as big as you guys, back 15 years ago or so, 10. Maybe Pistis, as far as community-based Southern Oregon, they were huge. They had like 30 people, I bet, or more. That's what I like. You guys do multiple disciplines. It's not like I'm preaching to somebody, which is great. If there's a singular focused Masters road team out there, I love it, because if you guys are going to nail it at one big stage race this year, that's super cool. But a lot of people don't have room for more people, and the shops are not as engaged with teams as they used to be. It used to be more of a kind of a shop need, or they would have somebody that was championing it. And, right now, I mean, shops are in a weird position because they're just trying to find parts and bikes for people. It's crazy. So, it's just I think if we keep this, like if we keep the team and we keep all this stuff, it's all part of that 7-layer dip, but we can't ignore it. To your point, Jake, we can't put it into its corner, and it needs to be a part of the function. And I can easily do that because I'm a one-man wrecking ball, and I have my family that's, they're getting older. My daughters are 22, 19, and 17. So I'm losing all my help quickly. It's crazy. So, things are, there's definitely going to be new ways. I mean, we're going to try to hire two or three more people this year on our staff and just be more functional overall. And try to look at our integrations. Our integrations are probably our biggest wins moving forward as how we use technology, and try to push some easy buttons on some things.
Cool. Mike, do you want to tell us about your sponsors and maybe give them a little plug? And then also second to that would be, what does it take to become a sponsor of a Mudslinger event?
Well, basically, sponsoring me is just easy as emailing me, and we have sponsorship levels, and depending on what events you want to get involved with. But our current sponsors, all of them stayed on, which was really cool about last year. Some of them we really couldn't promote a lot, and I kind of knew that. But the biggest thanks would be to go out to my beer sponsors in 10 Barrel Brewing and Three Creeks over in Sisters Brewing. Hammer Nutrition was huge, along with Bob's Red Mill out of Portland. Those guys were, single serve is the way to go. So without those two sponsors, I would have been, it'd been a lot tougher to put on the events. And so we also have Rolf Prima and Commotion Cycles. Land Speeds Fix is our bike shop in Eugene that wrenched at every one of the Triple Crown events last year during COVID. And that says a lot to provide that mechanical support during this kind of, time frame. So, Rolf Prima and Astral Cycling, they're big, good friends in Eugene. And, we have a lot of other sponsors that, Takelma Roasting. My relationship with Seven Feathers Casino is pretty cool at the Takelma Gravel Grinder. We did the event year one, and we couldn't do it at the end of June last year. And then we got burned out with the fires. But riding through a casino is pretty darn cool to start an event. So I'm looking forward to getting that checked off my list this year and put this event on.
Gotcha.
So many things to do, guys. So many things.
So if somebody wanted to become a sponsor, where would they go to get more information?
Oh, just go to Mudslinger Events. There's a sponsor tab. I got so many ways to connect to me. It's ridiculous.
Cool.
So
awesome. What else you got there, Lance?
I'm curious as to really what your biggest hurdles are in race promotion. What makes it difficult? Is it the permit process? Is it dealing with county and city governments? Is it trying to get enough people to sign up for races? What do you find is your biggest hurdles?
Well, I mean, running's not as much of a hurdle. People will sign up right away. They don't have a problem. Like a 50K might cost $150, and they'll just, boom, they're there. Okay, no big deal. Now they don't have the equipment. They don't have to pay for the equipment like they do, but they're really easy to get signed up. Cyclist, I think I figured it out this year. I don't know. I changed my policy or my process for cycling now to where if you sign up for any one of our events, you within 10 days before. So if it's 10 days before that event or more, you can opt out and use your entry fee towards any one of our current year events. So if something comes up, if you sign up now for anything and it's 10 days out and you say, hey, Mike, I can't come, we can push that to any one of our other events, and you can gift it to somebody else too. I mean, I'm like a reservation specialist. So it's sometimes it's legit. It'll be logistically a little bit insane when you're doing back-to-back events. But the biggest thing, I think the toughest thing is just to get the and one, or the people that are cycling, because we're still like 80% guys,
right.
like 75%, generic white dude. So
right.
when we're planning things, there has to be something for somebody else to go hang out and do. So I'm trying to create things more around the weekends, activities for families, because this synergy that we have with NICA and with OBRA and with Dialed and the teams and all this stuff, it's beautiful. It really is. We just have to be able to continue to express how to be successful in all this. And then we'll all win. Somebody will finish last, but who cares? As long as you're dead last, but finish. If you DNF, that sucks. DNFing sucks. If you finish, it's good.
I have another question that kind of comes off of that. How do you pick your dates? Because you have a couple races that conflict with some of Chad Sperry's races, and I am in like major personal dilemma as to what to do.
Really? Well, I told Chad when he was gonna put his dates on that weekend. I told him I was gonna come over and find him in Redmond and throw him in his pool and drown him. No, I'm just kidding. No, literally, Chad. We talk all the time. And literally, like I talk to a lot of the promoters in the state, even when they're doing relays and they're doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Like Easter kind of threw Chad into a cascade of 1 week forward this year, and being that he was already filled up with people.
Yeah.
No big. I mean, like he'll probably go back to the last weekend of April next year. And that part, there's so many people that live in Oregon. There's plenty of it's not that big of an issue. I mean, Bend people generally love to race in their backyard, just like Portland people like to race in their backyard.
Right.
So I kind of know I'll draw less from the Bend area if we're on the same weekend, or even a week apart. Even a week apart, it's hard for people to duplicate 2 60-mile efforts or 2 big efforts. So you guys can, but the majority of people will do one event a month. From the crowd of people, the wider cycling community, if we look at how many members or how many people go to OBRA events and how many people in this greater Pacific Northwest region are cyclists, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's huge to draw into the crowd. So I don't know what you're going to do, Lance. You're screwed. Buddy.
I am screwed.
You are screwed. You are. So, I mean.
Did they start at the same time?
I stick to, just so you guys know, I mean, as far as the weekends, though, I stick to my weekend. So if I'm the first weekend, second weekend, third weekend, that's really easy. The difficulty comes into it is if somebody starts a new event on the 5th weekend of the month, their brain can't think, because next year it's the 4th weekend, and now they're on top of somebody. So that's the biggest thing where people have to look at scheduling, is if they start a new event and they start it on a month or a year where there's 5 weekends in the month, don't do it. Don't look at that.
Pro tip.
That's a pro tip.
Gotcha. Mike, what do you think we're missing in the race scene here in the Pacific Northwest? Where are we coming up short? What are we screwing, whether it be from a team, whether it be from individuals, whether it be from race organizations? What are we missing?
Well, you could say you're missing. You can always find things you're missing. I just think that I look at it. It's kind of like, let's go to my faith. You have to look at your blessings.
Okay.
I don't think we're missing. I don't think we're missing anything. Well, I think we're just.
Let me get a little bit more specific, and I'm going to ask you a question about OBRA, the Oregon Bicycle Racing Association.
Sure.
Membership, in its heyday, about 7 or 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that, they were at 6,500 people. Go back to 20, I think we're in the 6,000 ranges. This is like, we'll say 10 years ago. We go to 2017, I think we're at 3,600. We go to 2018, we're about 2,800. We go a year beyond that in 2019, and then we're down to like 2,500 or 2,400. Long story short, numbers are really declining. And then you get the big old, slap upside the head with COVID, and I'm sure that they really lost a lot of people there. And I'm sure people will bounce back in 2021, hopefully, fingers crossed. What can we do to attract more people to get back out on their bikes? There's been a full-on renaissance of bike riding there's there's a massive shortage of bike. There's tons of people out there riding bikes when it's not covered by snow. What can we do to attract these people? What can we do to make bike racing more appealing, to get numbers back up? Is it something that we as a community need to rally around? Is it something that the organizations themselves need to do to attract people to come buy memberships to get back into bike racing? What are we missing here? What's the big disconnect?
I mean, it's kind of, there's a bunch of things. I mean, I know it got up to about 5,000 people. I mean, that's why I remember it. But, it's really just providing, I mean, the value in the annual membership, like with Obra, is the fact if you race a lot, you want to buy one-day licenses all the time. I mean, really, that's what they've hung their hat on, for a number of years, just saying, but it's better than buying one-day licenses. And that's really maybe not the way an organization, could operate, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at, there's a group that I look at that I kind of, for trail running, that I use for insurance. And because Obra is a layer of insurance for me, and they're really cool to work with. But at the same time, like, I work with the American Trail Running Association, and they're a resource, and you can get insurance. Like, my annual policy, I think, was under $500, to insure with American Trail Running Association. Now, it's different. Trail running is a lot different than cycling. I mean, to the point where I can get virtual race insurance with American Trail Running Association. No product is available in the U.S. for virtual cycling or any kind of a competitive specific course. There's no such insurance out there. So we're in a higher risk category when it comes to cycling. So, I mean, the organization, just like, I guess, other membership organizations like IMBA or a Costco membership, or its purchasing power. People want to be part of something that provides them opportunity to connect to other people. And I think Obra's doing a good job with that, as far as they have some basic things that are in play. But how you grow from that without diluting what you already have and not add expense, that's like every business or every nonprofit, because they operate similarly in a lot of ways. So, I mean, I do think Obra, talking to Chuck, Obra membership's up, which was really positive here last week. So it'll be interesting to see, like, what the first quarter numbers are on membership and how this people riding bikes equates to more people coming to events. I know I was referencing, I was talking to Chuck, I said, there's a new mountain bike race, I think in April. My friend Andrew's involved and some other good people. But I told Chuck, let's not add any new events this year if we can, because we have to be able to build capacity to handle new events. And I'm speaking right now as the Obra mountain bike rep, or this title or this job that I have for Obra. But I'm Mudslinger Events, so I'm a company and a business, and I utilize Obra for, what their marketing can help me reach some people, and they have solid insurance that I utilize for my events. And the more people I can coax out of Portland, the better, or Bend, because those are our two biggest hub. And I don't have an event in Portland, so a lot of people in that area, they won't really know me unless, they take a trip and spend probably more money than maybe their cycling budget allows, so to speak. So I think those are the biggest challenges, Jake, is that I used to, not mockingly, but I used to call it the Portland Racing Association because, it's the PRA. And it was something in Southern Oregon, because I put on races down there and they were always struggling. And it's funny because even in Eugene, when we had a cross race and somebody go, oh, we want to be like Cross Crusade, we only got 100 people. I'm like, you have one flipping 10th of the population or more. You should be stoked with 100 people. That's what you should get. I mean, that's literally the truth. And people don't like hearing the truth a lot of times. It's hard to stomach. So I think that all the systems that currently are in place, or all the promoters that we have in place, we just need to see what normal is this year, and then look at what, look at what can be done if people have the bandwidth, because it goes from everything. I know that for me, it's hard to get anyone to work for me on a weekend in Bend, Oregon. If I talk to any of my friends that I know that are relatively successful, I mean, I don't think they do it because they want to do it. They wouldn't do it for money. But I mean, I couldn't offer them $40 an hour and they wouldn't come. And so how are we supposed to, as an organization, survive? I mean, if I'm saying we as like being part of Obra, when maybe an official might make $100 plus mileage on a weekend to give up their weekend. And that's a lot to ask. And so I just think some of the structures are just a bit antiquated, and just need to be reimagined in a lot of ways. And that's like every organization has to be looked at. All the people on the board are awesome and they all mean well, and Chuck means well, and everybody, but literally just kind of taking it baby step by baby step and just looking at, okay, we could look at this in a different way possibly. And just, having, I'd love to see more of the meeting minutes and the budgets put online and more of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I would love to see that at Obra, to see what's going on. I would love to see how the committees are doing and all those kinds of things. If I could provide any kind of, contribution, great. But right, with COVID, it kind of puts a wet blanket on a lot of that stuff, but it really comes down to process, I think, and establishing a goal. Like, hell or high water, our goal is to get to 4,000 members by the end of 2022. That seems like that could be reasonable, right?
Yeah.
So establish a goal, reach out to the bike shops. I thought I had a way that I couldn't pull it off. It's not like I said, I'm one man, but I would say that on every bike, boy, Obra could put, like, remember the pizza door hangers,
Right.
But if they buy a bike, they get a free Obra membership, why not? I mean, it's a little bit of money.
Idea.
I mean, you as a business owner would kick in money, for that, or something like, maybe it would be on the sponsor card or something like that. Maybe not at a bike shop, obviously, but I would throw money on that.
Yeah.
But I think just getting people the opportunity to become Obra members may in fact mean just being more of a fundraising organization and less of a, we're depending on everybody to keep on paying their annual dues. Because I think that's, personally, to me, I've ran Team Dirt, the nonprofit. I've been involved with a lot of nonprofits. The most successful nonprofits are fundraising organizations. If they're Costco, be like Costco. If they're a fundraising organization, continue what they did with their Castelli promotion last year with jerseys. Look at ways to be nuanced, get good equipment, do all those kind of things. But I mean, I think they'll figure it out. I think one way or another. That's the hope, at least.
One can hope, for sure. We've got a question coming in from the YouTubes here. Mama Dove 76 would like to know what your position is on how Ironman handled the pandemic.
I do not know enough about how they handled the pandemic to make a comment.
They sucked. That's all you need to know.
They did not do this
well. They just cancel everything, no money back, no
correct.
anything.
Really? They did it in the 11th hour when people had already traveled to the events. They're like, oh, by the way, we're canceling on you. So if Matt and Evan were here, I'm sure that they would be more than happy to enlighten you on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. Those things are impossible. I know that to a point. I mean, we did for the events that we held last year. Normally, like if Lance, you sign up and you don't show, and I'm not giving you anything after the event. I mean, not hardly anyone ever would expect it.
Yep.
But with COVID, COVID's a little bit different. So it's interesting though. But like our policy now, there's been some people nationally, not during COVID, but it's happened where, let's say for example, your permit gets pulled. Maybe a road washes out. Now, hopefully you can reschedule the event. But some of these things that have happened across the nation, I mean, my insurance didn't cover pandemics. It was excluded for the events that we had insurance on. So but we're doing what we can, and we're trying to spread that load over a couple of years and see what we can come out with,
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. Lance, you have any other
That's too
questions?
bad.
I could tell my favorite Mike Ripley story.
Go for it.
Oh, God. It's horrible.
Do you want to hear this? So this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I did the Oregon Grand Fondo for the first time, and it's a 117-mile road race that goes over some rough roads. It was a hot day. It was June. It's a 117-mile course. I think I was like 105 miles in, and it got so hot that my front wheel blew. My tire blew with like 12 miles to go.
Oh, no.
It blew. I was doing like 25 miles an hour, so I yard sailed all over the road and like scraped all this stuff up. And I'm like, okay, great. My race is done. So I sat on the side of the road while somebody came up and said, hey, we'll contact the race guys so that they can come pick you up. And I'm like, super, just get me back to my truck. So I sat there for about 20 minutes and finally got sick and tired of sitting there. So I just jumped on my bike and I rode to the finish line on my rim, on my front rim. I'm riding up this hill. There's like one short little hill before you roll back into Cottage Grove, I think is where it finished. I think that's where it finishes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, right. I'm riding up this hill, and Mike Ripley drives up next to me in his truck because he's like, I think he got word some idiot blew out his front tire and he needs to be picked up. So Mike was coming to pick me up, and he rolls up next to me and he's like, hey, you want to get in the truck? And I'm like, F no, I'm not. I'm finishing this dumb race now that I'm already ruling again. And Mike's like, all right, dude, that's just what I would do. All right, we'll see you at the finish line. And so he rolled on.
Off he went.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, not only did Mike find out he goes to the spot where I'm supposed to be sitting by the road. I'm not there. And he just drove out to find me. He's in the middle of putting on this whole race, and he drove out to find me, who was the idiot who crashed his bike. So that's my favorite Mike Griffin story. You probably don't even remember that. That was a long time ago. I wasn't a dialed member back then.
No, I remember abandoning a lot of people that were like determined to finish. So
yeah, that was me.
Or people that refuse to come off the course when they're delirious. Things like that. So there's a lot of crazy stuff out there that happens. So
how about we flip this, Mike?
No, that's awesome.
Let's flip this, Mike. Do you have any questions for us?
No. What are your guys' team goals? I mean, given the uncertainty, you guys going to be focused on just being general participants in everything you can, same old thing, or are you guys got a particular event that's on the horizon?
Win it all.
But is there a big dialed event, like one singular thing that you guys want to just crush?
Gosh, like a race on the schedule, huh? I know that a lot of the
guys
where
everyone shows up, like you just swarm like bees, like everyone's like, what the hell?
Well, the team competition at Cross Crusade tends to be important to us. And so I guess that's one event where we really kind of show up big. Same with the short track racing.
The short track, definitely. PR is another one. I know that the Baker City Classic is another really important event to a lot of our roadies on the team, so they're pretty keen on that. I think, though, on the whole, I don't know if this is just me speaking selfishly because it's really what I'm keen on. I want to build like a premier, like known across the land juniors program. I want to be the reason why more kids get into bike racing, because that's how we become sustainable for the future. You got to plant those seeds now. And I think that we've got so many kids out there, like the best cyclists in the world. And I've always said this, the best cyclists in the world don't even race their bike right now. They're playing another sport. They just don't know that they're the best cyclists in the world. So I want to let these kids know, like, hey, there's more to life than baseball, football, basketball, and soccer. I mean, those are great sports, don't get me wrong, but there's this other thing called bike racing that you can do for the rest of your life. So I want to get kids involved in that. I want to show them the different disciplines. I want to get them excited about getting on their bike and racing and doing it for a lot of years, because they can start at 9-10 years old, and we've got people on our team now that are 70 racing their bike at 70 years old. Jay Hamlin's out there still crushing crits at 70 years old. And it's like, hey, look at this guy. He's still doing this at 70 years old. And, there's a lot of people that don't come into the sport and know that they're good at it until they're in their mid-30s to early 40s. Chris Rat. So I want to get more people on bikes, and I'm really keen on getting more juniors out there. And I want to take them to all these different events and have us show up and do a really good job with that. And that's important to me.
I think that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think juniors, that was the biggest success of 2020, though, was junior racing. Watching the evolution. I mean, watching how fast Ian got, and seeing like Paige Edwards, and seeing all these different juniors that are just becoming like super well-rounded, super cool people. And they've always been cool, but they're coming out of their shell, and they're competing for top spots. So that's really, really exciting. I've seen a lot of juniors in my day, and I'm gonna go down. I think I'm gonna beat Jacob Rathy down at Shasta Gravel Hugger, by the way. that I could try to. When he was 10 years old, I could work him. I could work that kid. When he was going to Mudslinger, that kid had nothing on me, nothing. That's just like one of my favorite jokes is I give Serena Gordon a bad time because I beat her at Echo one year. So forever I can crush Serena.
That's
I
right.
just tell her that. She hates me for it,
Yeah.
So anyway.
Awesome. All right, guys. Any other questions? Anyone?
Not me.
No.
No. All right. Let's move
Appreciate
into
it, Mike.
We're going to jump into one last thing, Mike. This is where you get to say anything on your mind. It could be about anything. I'm going to start with Lance, though, so I'm going to give Mike and Chris a chance to come up with their one last things. Go for it.
My one last thing, I want everybody to go to Mike Ripley's website, mudslingerevents.com, and look at his events and sign up for one this year. Some of my favorite events are on his calendar: the Mudslinger, the Oregon Coast Gravel Epic, the Sister Stampede, the Oregon Grand Fondo. There are great events on his schedule. You need to participate in one.
Absolutely. It's a good plug. I love that. Cool. Mr. Sarrett, one last thing, bud.
So I just got an email from Unbound Gravel, and I've got some interesting plans for June. So formerly the Dirty Kansas 200, I'll be racing. So
Hey, congratulations. So you literally just got that?
He would like that.
a week ago, yeah.
Okay.
So
What's the date
look
on
forward to
that?
some requests for June 5th.
Okay.
So got some big 10-hour training rides coming up if you guys need something to do.
Oh, yeah. That sounds fantastic.
I might come
Sounds
join you
awesome.
for 4 or 5 of that.
Awesome.
Right on. Mike, one last thing.
Oh man, one last thing. We're doing pretty well this year so far. Just want to let everybody know that. We're trying to fill up 200 spots before we feel like we can take any more, and it's really going to be just wait and see on a lot of the format. But the stoke's really high. People are really interested in racing. So the one thing I guess is just to, like I said, if you check out my schedule and configure a time to get together with your family and take a little trip, or with your friends, invite somebody new on a ride that you are not accustomed or to riding with. That's my one big thing, is if everyone looks outside their bubble and invites somebody on a ride, especially whatever you can do with COVID or how people feel comfortable, if you can make that happen in 21, the world will be a much better place.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My one last thing is I just wanted to give a big heartfelt thank you to Mike for coming on the podcast with us today. I've been kind of looking forward to this, and yet I've been going back and forth. And that's thing number one, because I always have multiple one last things, right? Because I get to do multiples. My other one last thing is I wanted to also give another big thank you to Matt LeGrand. He's not here with us today, but he did a little YouTube video, and he posted that up on the YouTubes yesterday. And he spotlighted 10 small YouTube channels that he thinks that people should check out without even asking us or telling us or letting us know that was really what he was going to be doing. He put us in there, Lance.
He plugged us.
He plugged us, and we've had a bunch of new subscribers, which is fantastic.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, big thanks, Matt.
Nice.
Go check out Matt's video at youtube.com/Matt LeGrand. Or no, M. LeGrand, because the Matt LeGrand will take you to the pop star. So you can check out that too if you want. If you want to check out
Dancing shirtless on the beach, that's my dig. That's what I'm up
So
about. Yeah.
M. LeGrand needs to have Lance Romance come on there to
Lance
kind of
Romance needs
spice up his channel a little bit.
He needs some mustaches on that thing.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're not watching it on the YouTubes, you can go check it out afterwards if you want to kind of see the whole interview with Mike Ripley. You can go to youtube.com/dialed cycling, and that's where our YouTube channel is, and we post all kinds of little fun videos on there, and got a few more in the hopper that we're working on. It's been just so time consuming to get those things done with everything else going on, but we're making it happen. We'll have a few more coming up. I've got one that's just about done. It should be up maybe today, possibly tomorrow. By the time this comes out, people should be able to watch
Let's
it.
hope so. All right.
Anyway, I think that's about it, folks. Again, appreciate everybody coming on, Chris and Mike and Lance for coming in. You guys are awesome. We will
Awesome to be here.
we'll be back doing this again next week.
Yeah, great to see you guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mike, maybe we can have you again in the future. I'd love to circle back with you, maybe a recap of 2021 to see how everything went. And if there's ever anything that you need, sir, don't hesitate to ask us for some help, whether it be me, myself, and Lance, or the Dialed Cycling Lab here, or even the Dialed Cycling team. Whatever we can do to help support you, man. We want to continue to push people like yourself forward, because without you, there wouldn't be mountain bike racing in the Pacific North. Well, in the Portland area, the Oregon area. We need that. We need more of that. So,
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks for watching. We will see you all next week. Bye for now. Are you guys still there?
Nice job, guys.
You guys
I think it was okay, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. Mike, you did a great job. I think you